let's take a look at making this feel a little more natural, polishing it up. So as it falls, it squashes and then it stretches out and then it returns to normal. So what we'll do is I'm going to select both of these here, hold shift. Remember on 36 it returns to normal. What I'm going to do is just grab this frame 36, hold shift and click once. And you can see it becomes red down here. And I'm going to slide this over a few frames. So what happens is it squashes and it stays, we'll see, what is that, roughly 4 frames. All right, so we're roughly 4 frames off. So let's do the same on 58. Just gonna shift click and then click this middle one and slide it over roughly 4 frames. So let's look at that. Let's watch that here. So you can see, boom, exaggerates a little bit more. And then it looks like I never have it return on 72 to its normal state. So here's 72, it lands, and let's make sure we do I think it was, yeah, when it squashes, it's minus 0.17, positive 0.17, so here's 72, minus 0.17, and 0.17. And I'm just going to bring it down a little bit to kind of extend this out too. And then the frame before, which is 71, just zero these out. So you get this. And then what I want to do is, let's go back to our front view. Is if it's returning, so here's 71, 72, there shouldn't really be any bounce after that. But it does, this is it at its zero on the plane. See that? How this is right on the plane. So I do want this to squash here, squash, return to the plane size here. I can hold that squash a little bit longer and maybe just zero these out. Let's see, that was the reason I turned this on so that I kept, there we go, let's zero this out. So it maybe emphasizes the squash a little bit more. And if we've got this extra room to play, I can sort of just move this over. So it pops up and then play with that value a little bit. Let's kind of pull it down to a little bit more to the ground. So it pops up here. Boop. Something like that. That's how it kind of ends off. Let's take a look at that. And that's a little bit too short at the end, but it gets the point across. Let's go ahead and take a look at looking at how our ball rotates too as it's falling. Okay, so for our rotation, which is going to serve as a secondary action to support our primary action, which is the ball bouncing, go to the very end of your animation here, which is like, what is that? About 74 here. So what I wanted to do as it's at its final max here, which is 73, is I'm going to keep that rotate Z going, right? So move it out like that. And what you'll notice is as it's moving now, it rotates. So let's press play. And we can control the amount of that. All right, so let's take a look here. So if I select this middle circle, the curve here, these are all, again, these are all the attributes that are attached to our curve. And rotate Z, if you remember, is the value that we change as our ball is rotating, right? So that's this guy right here. So what I'm going to do is select both of these, and I'm going to flatten that tangent, or let's do linear. Linear. I'm going to make a straight line. So you can see now as I press play, it's rotating a little bit more evenly. And it also, we'll go ahead and make these linear as well. Let's watch that. And what you can do is pull this down if you want the rotation to be slower. So let's try that. Or if you want it to be faster, you can move that up a little bit. Oop. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant it's the other way around. Sorry about that. So let's pull it down. You can see I'm adding more of a rotation. See that? And if you want it to be a little bit more natural because of the speed, so you can play with that value. So something like that. So you can see it's hitting. And often, depending on how it's falling, you know, you want to get that to sort of line up too, right? Because see how it's hitting that value and squashing out to that side like that. You can also go in and incrementally tweak it, right? So like right before it hits, maybe you want um, the value of the ball to be something more like this, right? So I'm just going up to that frame 33. So as it hits, it's following that arc, right? So you got to tweak that a little bit more like that. So it comes down, boop, and then it's springing off to the side going that way. It's up in the air. It lands here, right? And you can play with that a little bit, that arc, and then flattens out. You can make it completely flat if you want, and then it comes up like this. And then we can, same sort of situation, right? Oop, no, we want that to be off center. Boom. Flatten that out. And then I'm going to actually delete that last rotation. Boom. And then we can move it off a few frames and then just, it's like our rotate value. There we go. And I think it's the same sort of situation here, right? Like we make these all linear. And then you can play with the speed in which you want that last rotate to happen. It's a little too fast. Now, a couple of ways to take note of this is there's many different ways to approach this bouncing ball animation. This is just one way. Learn this way. If you're doing this in the animation course, learn it the way your instructor is teaching and merge it together to sort of create your own style. The next thing we're going to look at is some very basic camera cuts and movement to sort of add some personality to this animation.